Hey everybody, welcome. You're starting our live streaming number 99. Today I have the honor to meet with Greg Young, who first described it and is well known because of CQRS and many other things. CQRS is Common Query Responsibility Segregation. Don't get confused with CORS, which is cross-origin resource sharing. And
Don't forget CQS.
yeah. CQS also. And Greg, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming down. This topic is really trending here in Brazil. And thank you. Welcome.
Well, I hope it's really trending in Brazil because Brazil is one of the few countries I haven't been to.
Oh, yeah, exactly. What I'm going to ask you. Have you ever been to Brazil? Is it your first time with a Brazilian audience?
I have not been to Brazil, but it is very high on my list of places I need to get to.
Ah, great.
I very early in my career spent a lot of time in South America.
Which
I went
country?
to quite a few. I was doing, as an example, carambola systems.
Oh, yeah.
So there's quite a few of those down there.
But you've been to, I don't know, Argentina, Chile,
Yep.
Ecuador, these countries.
Yeah. But Brazil has just never quite reached that I would end up there. It's like I've literally been to most other countries,
Yeah.
but it's just never Brazil. And I've always wanted to go there. Like I see it on TV, and it's just such a bizarre and interesting culture.
Yeah. Brazil is amazing. You're more than invited. Actually, there's a lot of huge events here about technology. And do you speak Spanish now?
I can understand some Spanish,
Yeah.
mais je parle français fluemment.
Ah, est-ce que vous parlez français bien?
Oui, j'ai habité au Québec, donc il faut.
Je suis en train d'étudier français, mais maintenant, yo volví al español. Muchas veces recibimos convidados de otros países de Latinoamérica. But let's come back to English.
Oh,
A lot of
Ashkaba Shiaktik Litavishke.
what is it?
I also speak some Lithuanian.
Oh, great.
My Spanish, it used to be kind of okay, but now it's just rusty. I literally lived in Gran Canaria for a while.
Oh, yeah. Great. Gran Canaria. Is it near Spain? Yeah. No?
It's part of Spain,
On
actually,
coast, so it's part of Spain.
but it's not close to Spain.
Yeah, actually not close. It's closer to Africa or even
Yeah, it's off the coast.
Morocco.
It's off the coast of the Sahara Desert.
Yeah. Ah,
which
perfect.
which makes for a very interesting weather feature that you will probably see nowhere else in the world. It's called the Klima.
Oh, yeah.
So what happens is you have the winds coming off the Sahara, and they're picking up the sand, and so what ends up happening is it ends up blowing over the islands.
Yeah.
So you literally have sand falling out of the sky.
My goodness.
And there's like particulate matter in the air. So like if you have asthma or something like that, it can be quite difficult for you.
Yeah, but great experience living there for a while.
It's hard to imagine a better place in the world.
Oh.
So it is sunny and mild, something like 330 days a year.
My goodness. Must be amazing. Next place on the list. But Brazil, I think you'd like Brazil. It's like that in many places. And
well, from everything I've seen on television about Brazil, I think I'd have a very, very good time there.
Yeah, sure.
It looks like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Brazil's a very very nice country. Different cultures from south to north because it's like a continent. It's huge, and it changes a lot as far as you go up or down. Different climate, different culture, but same language.
However,
That's
I have also seen the movie City of God, so I'm not
yeah.
sure. I'm not entirely sure how much I might enjoy it down there.
No, it is very specific inside Rio de Janeiro. I was born in Rio, so I understand a lot about what was going on there. But nice movie, nice movie. But Brazil uh, is not like that exactly. So, Greg, let me start asking what I always ask for everyone, which is how did you start your career in programming? What was your first programming language? How you start?
Oh boy. I've got a really, really weird answer for this. Like, it's so weird that it will probably go down in your history as being the weirdest answer. So, like many, I had done a little bit of toying with things like BASIC.
Yeah,
You get into QBasic or Quick Basic. There was even Power Basic, if anyone remembers that one. Power Basic would even compile
yeah.
real executables out of it. But then, when I was still in high school, I bought a book. And that book, well, I spent a lot of time with it. It was Mastering Turbo Assembler by Tom Swan.
Oh,
So I spent quite a few years mostly programming in assembly.
oh, that's actually amazing. You are very near from the CPU, and must be a nice experience.
My beard should be much grayer for that answer.
Yeah, but when it was programming BASIC, it was in like Commodore or Apple II or any of those machines. No.
So the one that I tended to use in high school, I had a 386 SE compact laptop.
Oh, so it's in 90s, not in 80s. Okay.
Right. This is so I graduated high school in what, 1996.
Oh,
So but it was a lot of fun working with that stuff. And the differences between the 286 and the 386 when we talk about assembly language were vast.
yeah, yeah. Different.
There's a whole lot of new
architectures.
stuff that had just come out, and
Yeah, yeah. In after that, which language you engaged, like Java or C Sharp?
neither.
Neither.
So no, my first job when I came out of university, and you're going to get a solid laugh out of this, I actually worked in Pascal.
Oh, but with Delphi or just Pascal?
Delphi? I don't even think Delphi existed yet. No, I was working in VMS.
Yeah.
And so we both built the backend in VMS, and I tended to be working on embedded systems. So we were writing Pascal through some compiler that was made by like two guys somewhere. And we were building our embedded systems in Pascal.
Great. Then compiling to that specific architecture and
mostly 68030s and 68040s.
nice. No.
And you're gonna get a good laugh out of this because of what it was for. It was gambling terminals.
Oh, great! Like for casinos and
No. For horse racing.
Oh, horse racing. Oh,
and lottery. We the same terminals could do both.
You know that once I heard, and I think it was in one of your presentations in Europe, maybe, I don't know, where you describe a problem with a horse race where the developer changed the algorithm to like replace the values.
Yes, I know precisely what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
You are talking about a gentleman by the name of Chris Harn, who used to sit next to me at that company.
Oh, it's a real story.
Yes, that's a real story.
To you. I thought that you heard it from someone else, and I actually Googled it to try to find more information about.
So his last name is spelled Harn. And what you're looking for is the 2002 Breeders' Cup betting scandal.
My goodness.
So basically what he was doing was he was putting in bets and then changing his bets on disk after the race. And basically the way certain pools worked, you wouldn't keep all of the pool in memory. Think something like a pick six, because there's so many tickets for a pick six, but there's so few that win.
Yeah.
So you don't want to keep them all in memory. So what you do is after the last race, then you scan. So what do is he'd put in his bet, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Then he would watch all the races and he'd be on the computer line and he would go change his bet on disc from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to what the winners were. And he got caught. Now, the reason why he got caught is the funny part. If I remember correctly, he was either the only or like one of 2 winning tickets in the world.
Whoa.
Now, normally on a pick six, you end up with a couple hundred winners and it's just push the pool. Okay, whatever. But he was literally like the only winning ticket in the world. And it was like $100,000 ticket or something like that.
Yeah. Call a lot of attention.
Well, and you can be sure that the mutual manager is going to look a bit into this ticket and what might be going on with it when you only have one.
Who's the winner? Let me see here. Who's the developer of the system?
No. It's not even that you can see that they're the developer of the system. It's just that this is very odd to occur. And so now all of a sudden everyone starts looking more into things.
Yeah. So he changed it. And he didn't think about getting caught because of this specific result, or he just put the results there and after.
So if I remember to be quite precise, so what he did was he waited for the first 4 races to finish, and his ticket was the first 4 winners and then all.
Oh.
Because once that 4th race ends, that's basically when the tickets get cut off.
Yeah.
And then he had 2 like extreme long shots come in the 4th and in the 5th and 6th legs of the bet, which left him as like the only winning ticket in the world.
Yeah.
He was unlucky.
In this case, very, very unlucky. And how did you came up with this concept about Cqrs? Because Cqs from Bertrand Meyer, I think is also well known before Cqrs or even.
So why don't we define them very quickly?
Yeah.
So people listening can understand them. So Cqrs by Bertrand Meyer basically says, if you have a void return type,
yeah,
this method can mutate state.
Perfect.
If you have a non-void return type, anything else that you're returning, it should not mutate state. Believe it or not, this is actually really, really good throughout 95 to 99% of the software that you deal with. There are, however, some problems that you will start running into if you try to follow it religiously. A perfect example of a problem you might run into is, how would you implement stack.pop?
Exactly, because you return the last element.
Cqrs uses the same definition of commands and queries, but basically says that, at more of an architectural level, what if we were to take all the commands and make them go to one service, and we're going to take all the queries and go to a different service?
Perfect. So it's broader than like a method inside a class, for instance.
Correct. And it's being applied normally at a service level, not at a method level.
Perfect.
So what I end up with is one service where everything I send to it is a command. It's me telling it to do something. My other service is my query service, and I'm asking it for information. And this becomes very fun in a lot of systems because there's a lot of differences between commands and queries in terms of how they interact with the system. So for most systems, which side do you need to scale?
Oh, yeah. Actually, the query side needs to handle sometimes a lot of connections from, I don't know, reporting customers, consulting information, but also, of course, the command side needs to be more resilient, needs to be more,
Right. And they have different needs.
yeah, different needs.
And this is what we're really focused on. Now, one of the benefits about CQRS, especially if you're using event sourcing along with it, is that I can very often horizontally scale my read models,
Yeah.
which is rather useful when we're talking in many domains, me receiving 100 queries for every one command.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And not competing like in the same server for the same IO devices, for the same resources, which,
Oh, they may or may not be
yeah,
competing.
yeah, may or may not. Perfect.
You can make it so that they're not competing, but the very simplest form of CQRS is I've actually just made two services. They're running on the same computer, talking to the same database. One of them is talking to tables, the other is talking to views.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And sometimes people ask me about it, and if I have a column, a different column, which like aggregates values from like events or from a normalized point of view, is it a kind of CQRS? Because you are like with a different read model, although it's very small, like just one column or just one table.
I've gone back and forth on this. So
Yeah.
the example I normally give is if I have a third normal form database and I put triggers on the tables of my third normal form database
Perfect.
to update a first normal form model inside of the database, is this CQRS? And it's like, well, if you squint at it just right, you could probably call it that.
Yeah, it's a great start actually for many people.
Oh,
It's
but
very
well,
intuitive.
no, if you start there, you're probably going to have some issues as you start growing. You've limited yourself greatly. There's a lot of other things that you could do to start off with, which would put you into a better starting position.
Yeah, because it's very intuitive. Because sometimes you have a huge load on your database because of the amount of joins that you are doing across many tables, and the normal like
Oh, come on. No,
solution.
I am sure that nobody who is listening to this show has ever had a problem with a report that did 127 joins
Yeah.
in their query. I mean, it just never happens.
Yeah, it's very uncommon. And sometimes people react like as you said, creating views or creating better materialized views, which have some kind of caching, or even like replicating data to another database, although inside the same model. And those solutions uh, have like a performance implication or solves uh, kind of a performance situation. But CQRS, I know that you can look further. Like I am using a domain layer. It's really hard to extract data from repositories, and sometimes a different read model
But
entirely.
I was gonna say the main benefit when we start talking about CQRS is when we start pairing it with event sourcing.
Yeah,
So now I've got my event store on one side, but then on my read models, I have 4 different types of read model. So I have a SQL database in third normal form. I have a SQL database in first normal form. I have a graph database, and I have a document database. And then you tell me that you've got this new kind of funny issue that you need to solve. And I can say, you know what? Let's go look if there's a database that could actually solve this issue well, as opposed to trying to figure out how would I solve this issue with the database that I'm forced to use. Hell, sometimes we even get into things like our read model is files. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Sometimes might be the best way to go, and actually,
Oh, come on. You've never worked for a bank, have you?
I have interacted with many banks, and sometimes this kind of file exchange is it's very common, it's very normal, like a EDI or some kind of endpoint like
Yeah, so
this.
at 11 p.m. we run this. It produces out this CSV file, which is technically our read model.
Yeah.
And then we push that CSV file off to this other system. This is very, very common when we start looking at things like finance and trading systems.
Yeah. And what do you think about this name command? Once Martin Fowler said that like command sometimes is not well understood. And he proposed the term mutate or something like this. What do you think about the name? Because command, I think it came from the design pattern from Eric Gamma and the rest of Gang of Four. Like you have a separation from.
Well, no, the bigger problem with command is that there's multiple definitions of it.
Yeah.
So there's a messaging pattern, which is actually in the enterprise messaging pattern book, which is called command. Then there's the Gang of Four command pattern. Then there's the there's at least like 3 or 4 separate definitions about what it actually is. I'd be completely open to changing the names of things. The only problem is if you were to change the name of command there, how many other things would it change?
Yeah.
Like this would just be like a month or two of busy work for me to go back and like try to update things to use the new terminology.
No, but I actually like the name because command is a clear definition when you have a separation between who are invoking from who is invoked for. And then you separate those things. You don't expect a return. You can put those things in a kind of messaging system, a queue, process later, resilient. But looks good for me.
So my general explanation that I've used for some years now is a command is really, really simple. So when you have a command and you're naming it and you're dealing with it, it's something that I can tell you to piss off. That's literally all you need to understand.
Yeah.
So you tell me, deactivate inventory item 55333. Piss off, I'm not going to do this. If you were to send me inventory item 55543 deactivated.
Yeah. So event.
Well, then that now you're sending me something that it's like you're telling me it's already occurred.
Yeah, as a fact.
So this would be kind of weird. It's like, and there are systems where we build that where this is how we do it. Like the client actually sends up events, and then the server may disagree with it, but he must accept that the client did this. But these are much harder to manage than me being able to tell you, you know what? No, piss off. I refuse to do that, and this is why I refuse to do it.
Perfect. You have the opportunity to reject different. Yes.
Yeah. And not just for technical reasons, it can be for business reasons. You just told me that you want to deduct $500 from this guy's account, but he's got a balance of negative $200. So piss off. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Perfect. And that's kind of the difference between a command and a event, which is a fact that you need to react.
Where things get even more interesting is when we talk about the general discussion of command sourcing versus event sourcing.
Great.
There are times where I might even prefer to not source the output of my state machine in order to give it back to my state machine, but to source the inputs and to replay them through the state machine.
Even for commands.
There are situations where I might prefer to replay my commands. It allows me to change what those commands mean to me over time. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Never thought about it.
So think about if we were talking about a bank account. And if you overdraft, you get a $20 overdraft fee. Now, if we were using event sourcing, we get the transactions coming in. You overdrafted. I ran an event that says you have a $20 overdraft fee. But what happens when they decide that that's not actually a $20 overdraft fee? It's a $10 or $30 overdraft fee. Now, does that apply from this point into the future, or does that also apply to the past?
Perfect.
So there are some benefits to actually sourcing your commands, but you have to be careful with kind of how you do it. And
yeah, it's like a point of time recovery where you have the opportunity to fix something, replay, go back and forth.
Well, and it's, am I looking at the output of my state machine, or am I looking at and replaying the inputs of the state machine, where the state machine can change over time? There's benefits and drawbacks on both sides.
Yeah. And let me ask you, what do you think about domain-driven design? Cqrs is very often quoted in books like Implementing Domain-Driven Design from von Verno and also other kind of architectures. Are you a user to use domain-driven design in your projects, and what do you think about it?
So it's become involved with domain-driven design. Cqrs and even event sourcing in general can be used completely outside of domain-driven design.
Yeah.
However, they have proven to be very useful for people who are doing domain-driven design.
Yes.
There's a large amount of overlap. Think about, let's say, your ubiquitous language in domain-driven design. So how useful would it be if every change in your system actually had words associated to it? As opposed to just being like, oh yeah, we saved some stuff to the database. And in many situations, these wordings go one-to-one. I say change order price, and it says order price changed. But it's not always that way. What about place order into a stock market? So place order could come back and tell me order placed. It could come back and tell me order canceled. It could come back and tell me trade occurred, order placed. It could come back and tell me, suddenly you have all of these facts that can actually come back. And this should really be part of my ubiquitous language. It shouldn't just be like, oh, I had some order book changes here. Seeing what these facts actually are makes for a much richer domain model.
Yeah. And actually, when we think about domain-driven design, we are creating aggregates. We are thinking about clusters of objects inside our bounded context. And to me, it's the basis of a repository implementation, because it returns aggregates. And I do believe that in the most part of the domain-driven design implementations, it's very hard to extract data for the customers, for some places where you need to get data from, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 different repositories, and not only in terms of bringing complexity to the repositories due to filters and different columns that you need, but actually because the boundaries are different, you need to combine them in memory. In terms of performance, it's worse. And then CQRS in this kind of situation is, at least to me, is almost the only way to go, because
Well,
you need to look to your database different.
Well, and it's what my aggregates look like in my domain may or may not, and excuse my language here, have fuck all to do with anything how they look when I'm actually trying to display information to people.
Exactly.
They may, and in some systems they do, especially if they tend to be more so CRUD.
Which is not a use case for domain-driven design. And
Correct.
sometimes in
Correct.
these situations, it doesn't matter.
But if I'm fairly cruddy, then things tend to look reasonably similar coming in and coming out. When I'm not, they very often look drastically different from each other.
Exactly.
This is one of those things that you should be watching for in terms of whether things might be a good fit for you.
Yeah, and in this situation, sometimes it's even easier to deliver the data to the user, to the specific use cases, when you have the opportunity to create your own read model, sometimes combine tables, which like are involved with different aggregates and different repositories, and then I also do believe that the application services or even use cases from clean architecture are not like connected. They have a eventual consistency, a future consistency, and they must publish events. And in this situation, you have the perfect opportunity to create this read model or many different read models.
The one I've laughed at the most in terms of arguments against CQRS is the arguments against command handlers.
Yeah.
And that no, we should use application services again instead of command handlers. And it's like, really, dude? All we've done is refactor parameters to object.
Yeah.
That is literally all that we have done.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't matter because the models are different, and we need to respect this fact. Otherwise, in kinds of situation that we are using domain-driven design with CRUD, with like create, read, update, and delete, it's okay. It will fit. But otherwise,
well, no. If you're doing domain-driven design with create, read, update, delete, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And in this relation, you are speaking about event sourcing. Do you believe that event sourcing and CQRS working well together? Talk a little bit about event sourcing. What's your point of view?
Okay, so I'm going to say something which I've said numerous times in the past, but likely there's some people who will be listening who have not heard me say it before. So what's kind of bizarre about event sourcing and domain-driven design being put together? So domain-driven design at its core is really like, let's write some solid object-oriented code.
Yeah.
Event sourcing at its core is, let's go write some solid functional code. Event sourcing is inherently functional. I go through this in some of my videos online, but what you essentially end up with saying is that current state is a left fold of previous behaviors.
Yeah, free of side effects.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of benefits in reaching this level where we understand that it's a left fold, because that left fold can be applied to any point in time. And the function that's going through the left fold can be defined at any point in time. This is actually really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can give me a new function to run through that left fold today, and I can tell you what it would have told you on January 2nd, 2018, if you had come up with that idea and you asked me to run it then.
And you always recommend like to combine them, because when you think about a read model generated from like events that occur inside the domain, we may use sometimes like a messaging platform where we can read and throw out the messages and build our read model. But sometimes is it nice to have these event store with all the history that we can go back and forth. We can have a point in time replay.
Yeah. Well, let me just give a concrete example for you. So I know you've never had this happen in production, but what if you had a bug?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've never had one in production as well, because, you know, I don't put bugs in production ever. But what if we had one? It'd be kind of cool to be able to like go backwards in time before the bug and then come forward from there. So we're just going to forget that bug ever happened. We're going to go back before it happened. We're going to come forward again.
Yeah, exactly. Because we spent a lot of time fixing data because of that, and we can just replay. And
well, and very commonly when we say we're going to go back, it's not that we're going to go back like, 30 minutes ago before the bug happened. It's like, screw it. We'll just start over from when the system first existed. We have a new interpretation of what all that means. Let's just run it all forward again. Yeah, it'll take a day, but who cares?
Exactly. And speaking about different read models, do you think about what do you think about separation of databases while applying Cqrs? Do you think that is a good pattern, is a good practice to really separate those databases?
Are you
Or
just to clarify, are you referring to having multiple read models?
yeah, when you have a different read model, sometimes even just one read model and a common model, but we can start in the same database in a different table, in a materialized view, in a column.
I normally would not do that. Like, I'd have to be in a very specialized situation where I'd find that to be a good idea.
Oh, okay.
I'm normally going to do the separation up front.
Oh, okay. Separate databases, even different technologies like NoSQL and.
It might be different technologies. It might be the same technology, but I'm still going to keep them physically separate.
Oh, perfect.
And the reason I would be doing that is because they have different needs. So your read model is a derivative, correct?
Yeah.
So what happens if my read model has its hard disks just break? Well, then I just need to replay everything again and I get back whatever the model should be. What about my events? Well, yeah, we need to make sure they're backed up well. We need to make sure there's a bunch of operational differences between the two sides where the read models are essentially throwaway. Like, we do this on a regular basis. Like, we just bring up another one and it's like, okay, you start building next to him. And when you're built, we're going to throw him away and we're going to use you now. But for the events, these need to be stable.
Yeah.
And they need to exist for long periods of time, possibly even decades. One is throwaway, the other is long-term.
Yeah. And you use like a Kafka or some event string solution. What is in your technology stack?
Well, I tend to use Event Store for obvious reasons. And Event Store has really been built to do this. And there's a lot of funny little differences that you will run into. Like when you look at them from the outside and you have not been building systems like this for many years, the differences look small until you actually start doing it. And then you're like, holy shit, these differences are actually massive. As an example, with Kafka, when do I know that a write has been made durable? You don't. It's maybe it's durable, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm writing an event, which is me saying that I've done something, it's kind of important to know that if that database goes down, it will still be there when it comes back up. Otherwise, it means you lost my decision. Now, this will not happen often. You don't generally have production nodes going down 5 times per day until you do, which is really fun. But how do you recover from that?
Yeah.
And I believe that Kafka's actually added a durability flag that you can now set, which will tell you that your data is durable. But it's still running into problems because it's not really durable. It's kind of best guess durability. There are lots of these kinds of very, very subtle and highly technical issues.
Yeah. And nowadays, I think CQRS, when we think about microservices, is a great place to apply because you split the data in different services, different bounded contexts, different situations, and then many people split their applications and keep the like related or coupled synchronously. And sometimes when you break the data, you need to have a model that aggregates the at least partially data
Well,
from many microservices.
I was going to say, I'm going to bring up a slightly different pattern here of what if I had 5 write services, but only 1 read service?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That
Yeah.
would actually be kind of
Perfect.
cool,
Perfect.
wouldn't it?
Yes. Yes.
So you basically can query like the aggregated results from all of these different 5 services. But when you want to send a command, you send it to one of those 5. And then maybe we could even do this from the read model. We could put, I don't know, something like Helios, where the URIs point to the different services. That'd actually be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. Actually, Gilberto asked us a question between the difference between CQS and CQRS, which you explained in the beginning of the talk, which is the level, no, the method level, class level, and system level. But he asked some practical differences. Do you believe that CQS is like applicable? As you mentioned it, the pop method where you need to return
Well,
the
CQRS cannot really exist without the concept of CQS.
perfect.
It's an extension of that concept.
Yeah.
It uses the same definitions of the words in it. It uses like you can't really separate the two without saying one of them cannot exist.
Have you ever programmed in AFL, like the language of Bertrand Meyer? I read.
I actually know Bertrand Meyer.
Oh, great.
I have sat and had dinner with Bertrand Meyer.
Oh, yeah. You spoke French to him?
Bien sûr. But I literally flew him over to Lithuania for one of our conferences, and he is an interesting character. He's much older than me.
Oh, you're very young.
And he is also a very, very intelligent man.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like talking to your grandfather, or
yeah, he's also responsible for open closet principle. Great things from him.
Yeah, he's done a lot of really solid work, and I really, really think people should, more I should say, more people should go and take a look at Eiffel and play with it, because Eiffel is just, it's both obscure and kind of cool.
It actually supports CQS, no? Like, so enforces CQS. I don't know.
I wouldn't say it enforces it, but it strongly suggests.
Suggests. Perfect.
But it's a really, really cool language. And it's unlike anything else you've ever dealt with.
And Greg, nowadays, which language you are using in your projects?
Oh boy. So obviously I use quite a bit of C#.
Yeah.
I use C. Yes, I still actually write C code.
Oh, that's great. I like C.
I enjoy writing C code.
Back to the basis, yeah.
Well, yeah, and the great thing about writing C code is you're it's like when you're dealing with, let's say, C# or Java code, and you write some code. It's like, well, how is this going to actually run at runtime, and what's really going on here? And it's like you have to sit and like unpack your brain for like 9 minutes about how the JIT compile might work on this and what might actually be. Where with C, it's like, yeah, I just wrote the C code. I know exactly how it's going to come out. There's almost no mapping between
it. Exactly. And you are a guy that likes object-oriented languages more, or do you have experience with functional languages?
I've worked in both. I've also worked in procedural languages. I've also worked in... What piece of code are we talking about? Sometimes I like writing things in a functional style. Sometimes I like writing things in an object-oriented style. Sometimes I like writing things in a procedural style. It's not that like one is better than all the others.
Exactly.
There are good times to use all of them. I mean, Jesus Christ, are you gonna go and write me like some functional assembly code? That'll be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I think languages is more like what problem are you willing to solve? Then is it better or worse? All languages have their own pros and cons, and that's normal.
Yeah, and we always run into the situation of we chose this language because this language was a good overall fit for our problem. But then there was 10% of the problem where it wasn't really a good fit for the problem.
Yeah.
And this is always the fun part.
Exactly. And Greg, for those who are wanting to learn more about Cqrs and even sourcing and this kind of stuff, what do you recommend to study? Like, I know you have many presentations here on YouTube. I seen all
Oh,
of them, I think.
I have. If people go to Vidler,
Vidler.
I have like a 20-hour class online.
Oh yeah, you can send me
Um,
the link. I can put here in the description as well.
yeah, so I basically took my my 3-day class that I teach often in person, and I had a bunch of videos taken of it, and we put it up online.
Also, there is I think 50 or 60 pages article that you wrote. Cqrsinfo.com. I think it's yours, no?
I have to go look. There's also, and this is literally probably the most common thing that people talk about when they start getting into event sourcing in specific, versioning. I wrote a book on versioning just to stop answering those questions.
Oh yeah.
No. It was literally like I was getting questions like multiple times per week.
Yes.
So it's like, you know what? I'm just going to write one answer to all of these questions.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be great. And besides your videos, this course, are you planning to do it online? So maybe for people that are in other countries.
I'm happy to. If you guys want to set it up, I'm happy to do one. The only thing I would say is we have to find a good charity.
Yeah. Great. Greg, do you have any consideration, any advice for those who are watching us about the things that we just discussed? We are almost in the end of our live stream here.
So my main advice to people who are developers is to be curious. Don't always look for an answer. Go find an answer. There's a difference between those two things. So it has been very effective for me over the years, regardless of what we're talking about. Oh dear, I had not worked in Vim for probably 10 years and got dropped back into Vim. Oh dear. Let me go start playing with my vimrc file. Let's see what we can start doing here. Yeah, I screwed it up really badly a few times. But I learned a lot in the process. And you'll find this with thing after thing after thing. The way that we tend to learn is by doing, not by, watching some 30-minute video about that thing. Development is highly detail-based. Come on, mate. How many times have you needed the magic incantation to get this to work precisely as you want it to? And then it was like you spent the next 3 weeks trying to figure out the right magic incantation in order to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need to be more curious, and also look for answers by ourselves, and try more solutions. Sometimes we can come up with a better result instead of just I don't know, try to replicate things that people are doing.
And there's an expression in English, I'm not sure if you know it. The best way to learn to swim is to be thrown into the pool.
Yeah.
You're either going to swim or you're not.
Yeah, or swing or that. Exactly.
But you'd be amazed how well people are at swimming, even if they're afraid, if you throw them in the pool.
Yeah. And it works very well for software. the best way is to like be inside a project that you have the opportunity, you have ways to uh, bring a solution, to learn with the mistakes, to evolve over time. Sometimes people don't have this opportunity because work in a very specific project with tasks that lock you inside a I don't know, fixed activities, or even
Well, and
you know.
this also comes up, and I'm sure many of the people you have listening are probably more on a managerial side than on a currently writing code on a daily basis side. This is how you learn. You learn through failure. It's not that you should be looking at the failures that have occurred and thinking, "Oh my God, we're failing. We're doing so poorly." No, no, no. Failures are successes. Recognizing a failure is a massive success. The question is, what do we learn from it?
Exactly, Greg. Oh, Greg, I'd like to thank you so much for your time, all the experience that you bring here. I'm pretty sure that everybody who is watching us right now and who will watch later enjoyed a lot, so much. You are a very nice guy. Uh, Thank you so much for your time. Uh, when you're going to come to Brazil, call me. let's let's
Oh,
talk.
that will be a very bad evening.
Yeah.
I've been promised so much about Brazil.
Yeah. But thank you so much for your time, your attention. Everybody likes a lot your work. Everybody's really interested in Cqrs, in everything you created. You embrace it, and thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Thank you. Thank you to you all that watched us. Don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned. We are going to have another live videos like this. And see you everybody. Bye bye.